Hey, well, welcome to the Dream Labs, Dr. Contrast Live here. Hope you're having a great day thus far, and just thought I'd give a little bit of intro here before we start this illustration process. Put together a line drawing here to save a little bit of time, obviously. It gets a bit fussy in bits and pieces every now and then, but I just want to be pretty judicious about getting some of the graphics down to get this started. But we're going to walk you through a little process today with just some Copic marker and a little bit of pastel added, and the majority of the day I'm going to spend on just trying to get the body forms in and get the graphics down, and then begin to finish it up maybe on Tuesday. And so how far we get along here today with this beauty. So a really interesting process. The C8 has a lot of really beautiful surfaces on it. We'll take our time to just kind of walk you through some of the pieces we'll be putting together here, and I'll be probably working on a hypersonic gray, keeping it pretty neutral, and add a little bit of maybe the saddle interior trim and some anodized rims and the like, and just take it right down the line here with some very cool gray Copic markers, and work a bit of pastel as we go down the line here. So let's kind of start the whole process here by getting some of the hard graphics in here first, and we'll just lay in some of these pieces and get this little rocker panel piece in place here. Just kind of go back here. I'm about to move the pad around a little bit here. Just gonna get that started. Just get a little bit of that in there. Kind of separate it from the shadow just a bit. Real strong graphics. Just kind of restain it. Fill it in. Let that dry a little bit. Come back down to the nose cap here. Same process. A little spoon down below. Get this thing to read. And again, to try and separate it just a bit from the shadow so it doesn't run in one to the other. Again, really concentrating on just getting the graphics to operate here. Little by little, filling in the pieces, and we'll kind of wrap it up as we go here. So here we go, gang. Very careful. Follow some of the design lines here. Stain it in. Pretty fussy little pieces along here to work with, so we'll just take our time to lay it in there nicely and graphically and wrap it up here. Let's kind of get this guy to kind of do a little bit of highlight in there. We'll catch that just a touch and bring this right on through. Just the first pass with a number 6 cool gray, just to kind of get the spoilers and some of the spoon work down below all inked in. We'll go that route. Now let's go back up and through here and pick up a number 4 gray. Let's move this over just a bit. Start getting the core of this. So you notice this vehicle is going to have an awful lot. Hey, how you doing there, GGM? How's it going? This is Demetrius. Was wondering with the just regular in typing paper. This is on 11 by 17, Demetrius, 11 by 17, and it's just typical bond paper. And I'm just going to run through a little process here to show you how to put together a finished process with a little bit of marker and pastel on this C8 program here. So I'm glad you're on board. Hope you're doing well. So yeah, it is 11 by 17 on bond paper, and I'm just going to start laying in. The mission today is to get the graphics down and get some of the forms to read on this very interesting, simple hypersonic gray process. So let's kind of put this in place and just get some of the core values in here. Now let's go over here, Demetrius, and just follow along here. Just get a little bit of shadow in this little engine nacelle piece. Rotate this out. Come right down the body line here. Get some of the reflections around the wheel envelope. Gonna fill that in. Just slowly but surely just stain it. A little bit more of a pass in here. Again, through here, and just bring this right around the bend, just a little bit here, where it comes back into the actual rocker panel itself. And then that goes into that. We'll add a little bit more detail as we go here. And around the wheel envelope, gonna take this in. and bring it right on down to this little return here. A little bit of highlight. Bring this through, get that little return in through here. And then come right back down the line here and just kind of fill this in. A bit of an overlap in through here. A little bit of highlight to run. There it is. Get that to fuss it through here. Take this right on through and end it right about there. A little bit of reflection in this front quarter panel here to kind of give a little more distinction to it. There we are. Bring this around and get the foot here. And let that fade. There it is. Now we're at it here. Let's let that same process come up underneath this little nacelle area here. Get that front end in place. Again, real quick, very graphic, but getting the job done. A little more tone underneath that shadow line there to kind of get that in place. A little shadow underneath here. Take that into place here. Around the corner and lose it. Get that little far side sponson area to kind of kick in here. A little more past, get that little shadow to run underneath there. Get that to work. Bring that right into play here, and there it is. So, just starting to land some of the graphics here. What do you think so far? Demetrius, making sense for you? Just to get some of the packaging in. Interesting stuff here. Let's go down the line here with this guy. Catch a little bit of this again. Let's get this second pass along this body side here. Along the wheel envelope. Let's get some of the graphics on this body side over here too. Just let's start to put in some of the pieces here as we go. There it is. That's up on top. Get some of this in place here. A little bit of marker fill in here, and then we'll come back in just a bit with some pastel to kind of soften it off just a bit. Some of the reflections along the front end area there. Come up and tie here. Just a little bit of this hood graphic. The number 4 gray. That was it as well. Just a bit more in through here. I'm just going to get this guy to read through here just a bit. We'll come right down to the hood line on this guy. Get that reflection to really read nicely coming out the front surface of the paint. Work around the emblem just a bit. And we'll put that aside for a second here. Let me close this down, pardon me, and there it is, I got it. All right, so there it is. Just starting to stain it in just a bit here. Let me turn this around just so you can see what the graphics are starting to look like here. There we are. A little bit more of an image here is what we're kind of building up here as we go. Just going to come back down here and get this right down the center line. That's going to be a definite split right there, and that's going to come right back out into this area right here. Around the headlamp. And around the corner. We just put this into place here. And we're just staying that in. Just kind of laying in some rough graphics here, Demetrius. There we are. Get all that taken care of here. When we're past along this area, more detail in the shadow there to kind of keep building its shape up one to the other. Notice how we're starting to put the graphics together here, guys, coming around the surfaces. Looking pretty cool. It's coming along here. Let's get this guy to read up on top here. Just a little bit more razor in through here. Into the lamp, back out of it again. Into the shadow of the rearview mirror, out of the quarter area there. And the lamp graphics itself. Let's get a little bit of this down and through here. Let's get this, just to kind of read along this body side here. Just going to combine these guys together. Get that into place here. Around the wheel envelope. Take this right down underneath here. A bit of reflected light down below. Just getting the patterns in here, gang. Let's do a little bit bold. Let's put a little bit bold in this thing. Let's get this shadow ready to drop in here where that engine nacelle is. It's going to drop in through here. It's going to come along here. And again, down to this drop into the body form. And we'll kind of turn it around here just a bit. And we'll also get this down here just a little bit more of a dark gray right there. Let's hit that same thing, a little bit of shadow down through here where that engine, where that little ramp pieces take place. It's going to come back in through here and just put a little more shadow in this guy. There we go. Now let's go back in through here. Well, while we're at it, let's get that nacelle in place too, so it really kind of pops out of there. There it is. Well, it's really subtle, but it's there. Sorry for moving this around quite a bit. There's so many surfaces to deal with. I thought we'd just kind of lay in some things first here to get this thing started. Let's go back in and get a little bit of the glass graphics in place and begin to put some of these pieces together so we can organize it here. Let's get this all laid in. Lay in a nice little soft number 2 gray. Get that started and through here. Come back up on top here with a little bit of this on the inside of the material. Get that guy to kind of go with it. Just a little bit sure to begin to fill in some of the spots here. Let's go back in through here. Get a little bit of that number 5 gray. Bring that into play here. Bit of the insert here. Go back in and get this guy to kind of come back in through here too. Get this, the center console is. Come back and just detail a lot of this when we come back in. And that's that. Now let's notice here. Let's come back in and get a little bit of this, a little bit of reflected sky back into this thing. And let's see, let's get the IP in place here. Instrument panel, same tone. Just kind of laying in some basic foundation work here first. And the wipers, EIP, a bit of steering wheel. Let's put a little bit of lighter tone up on top there. So what we got, yeah, here we are. Let this guy to come back in. Rearview mirror upper. Just going to block that in to begin with here. Get that started. There we are. Coming together. Just kind of put the pattern down here to get it started. What do you think here, Demetrius? Coming along all right for you? Looking pretty good. Let's get this number 4 gray. Get this little pattern down through here on the front end of the machine. Very graphic. Very bold. And we'll start to fill in some of the material here with some of the nice, soft, very simple application of pastel. Let's get this shadow to work a little bit more distinctively here. There we go. Let's go back and then get this guy to kind of read just a little bit more, a little bolder here. Let's go back to a number 6 gray and get this separation behind the seat. A little bit of shadow back into here. Let's get this guy to roll just a bit more. Interior, get a little bit of that in there. And again, let's go back in through just a touch more of this. A little deeper. Some of the halo area there. Center console. And let's get this in place too. Just gotta slow down just a bit here and get that little heads-up display in place here. A little bit of definition in the wiper assembly here. Let's get that to go in place. And it's coming together. All right, just a little bit of interior stuff to kind of give a little bit of presence here. And as we go through this process here, let's kind of move it along. And we'll go back into a number of real light gray and just kind of put a little bit of real quarter hip in this thing so we can see what we're after. And again, back in through here, just maybe just a bit of touch more in through here. Let's come along with this rear quarter area and just kind of kick that in with a little bit more reflected light. There it is. Come along that bone line, a little bit more of that. Bring this right on through, and just for what it's worth, just a little bit more of maybe just a touch of this in through here, and just bring this right along the cowl area here. Just kind of slope this out, a little more reflection along that peak line coming down through the center of the vehicle here. There you go. Little by little, just kind of put some really interesting graphics together here. So it's just a really interesting set of processes to deal with here. Let's go back and do a little bit of definition into this. Let's get this guy just enough to come through here. Now let's go back and get a little deeper with some of the graphics underneath here. Probably moving around quite a bit. It's just a lot of pieces to work with here, so let's kind of get this little skirt down below here in place. Get that going. Put more detail back into this. It's a little deeper into that area here. Come back and hit that a little bit later. A little deeper in the shadow underneath that mirror. And then there. And again through here. Just a touch more, just a bit more shadow right in there to kind of get this kind of read here. There we are. And again, down below, let's get the spoon to read right here. Let's get a little bit more depth in this thing too. It's just a little secondary line in there to separate from the shadow. Really just concentrating now on getting these patterns to read here. Just getting all the systems set up here to kind of put in some of the pastel work to kind of bridge the gap between the hard marker and the soft pastel, which is going to come. There we are. Let me turn this upside down again. Again, gang, sorry for the motion here. It takes an awful lot of time to get these pieces to come together for us. So there we are. There's a start. What do you think there, Demetrius? Just kind of laying some of the patterns to get the graphics to work for us here. And once you see all the pieces come together, we'll just begin to blend this guy, and it should crank up very nicely for us here. Let's put a little bit more of this in place. Let's get a little bit more of this detailing through here. Inside pillar, the more reflected light through the glass here. Come back and hit that. A lot of strength in this guy. There it is there. Now let's put a little bit of this, let's get a little bit of color started in this thing now. A little bit of the turn signal graphics. Let's get that in place. Start to get these, a little bit of the detail work to really kind of come into play here. They're really being very, very helpful. Let's go back with the number 6 gray and just lay in a little bit of the lamping graphics. If I can find the right marker. Here it is. There we are. Let's get this guy started here. And very slowly lay in some of the graphics. And little by little, you'll start to see all the pieces kind of meld together here. Begin to make a real good solid statement on why these patterns from the very beginning are so critical to work with. It all comes down to understanding how the patterns in certain surfaces and materials work. And we're taking our time here to kind of lay this out and not rush it. Just come right back down the line here. There's a bit of a shadow in the seam here. Pardon me as I turn this upside down. A little bit of return underneath that seam. I'll get that up for you in just a moment. Get that shadow to come around the corner here. Get that little bit of an offset. And then lose it. There we go. Now let's come back in and get the remainder of this. Just kind of just block that in just a bit. Turn this around, get a little more of that definition inside here, just a touch. There it is. And let's get the other side in place here. I'm just gonna get this guy lined up on the lamp graphic on the other side. Look how that thing is starting to hopefully begin to emerge now. There's a really nice set of patterns to work with here. Let's kind of get that highlighted across the top of the lens here. That tells us where the other side of the form is. There we are. Little by little, there she is, gang, coming together. Hey, how you doing there, Corlin? How are you? Nice to see you. How you coming, man? Thanks for joining on board here today. Yeah, we're just going through a little Corvette piece here. Again, as I mentioned at the beginning of the stream here, Cortland, we're just going to lay in some very simple graphics here to get this guy started. Then we'll start showing you a little bit of pastel application over some of the information we've got going here. So there's what we're really, let me stop here for a moment. What we're really concentrating on here is getting the pattern down of getting some graphics in place. We're going to add some pastel to soften it all off as you go down the line. I mean, it's really interesting to watch what happens when you start to put all these pieces together. And we'll start add a little bit of pastel, put a little more surface into this thing. In fact, we can do that now. We can add a little bit of glass here, graphics. Let's come back here and get a little bit more transparency in this thing. A little bit more color in this guy. A little bit of glass. Let's go back in through here. A bit more of this in place. Start to just add some little pieces. Little by little, we'll start to build this thing up just a touch. And while I'm at it, let's go back in and get this going. This is a pretty critical part here. Let's get the seat trim. As I said earlier, moving around quite a bit. There's a lot of surface to deal with here. And if I don't move it around, I'll just kind of fuss up some of the material we're dealing with here. Let's get this nice natural saddle interior in this guy. And we'll kind of black in here. Some body color back in through here. That's part of the shoulder here. Let's get that all set up. Just a bit. This is a little bit of a touch. Now let's kind of separate that a little bit with some door trim, and that'll look like this. So we'll come back in and get this in between the belt line here and separate the steering wheel. Into this door trim pad here. Start to tone a little bit of that in. A little bit more detail in the inside here. And we'll come back and put some transparency on top of this when we get it. It's pretty well set to go here. And again, I said it today, the purpose of the stream is to really get in there. Hey, how you doing? It's Phil from next door. Hey, how you doing there, Phil? Cool. How are you? Didn't know you were in today, Phil. Good to have you on board. Let's get this down here just a bit. All sequenced in. There it is there. Now let's start to put a little bit of surface in this guy. Let's get a little bit of number 4 here, and we'll kind of throw in some of the header area. And fill in some of the gaps. There we are. Loosen it up just a bit. Throw a little bit of that saddle back in shadow here. A bit of reflected light up on top there. Kind of match it up just a bit. There we are. So little by little, gang, we're just starting to put the pieces together here. So let's see if we can get this guy to ramp just a bit here. Add a little more tone in the background here. Back a little bit more drawing definition back in that tunnel console area here. Let's get that guy to read just a little bit more. And we'll come back in and pick up a lot of transparency in between the two. Let's get that inside pillar piece here working. So that's number 6 grade. That should do it. Put that inside pillar, and we can start adding some transparency. That's that one. I'll come right back in there with a real bold pass to get this glass to start. So there we go. Now, little by little, there she is, starting to come together, gang. What do you think? Let's stop right there for a second, pick up the piece I've lost here, and your observations. What do you think, gang? Come together? Just getting, again, the graphics to come together, putting it all in pieces, all the parts together. Here, let's go one more pass with this guy, just to be on the safe side. Some more tone. There she is. Let's get back in here with a little bit more of this transparency here to kind of pull that off just a bit more. There it is there. Let's put a little bit of 5 gray back in here to get the shadow side of that marker, or that rearview mirror in place. Now let's go concentrate on getting some more of this graphics in the lens here. Let's see, so number 8 gray. Let's get this guy to really kind of jump at it now. There you go, a little more definition in that spoon area there. It's going to come back in and do a little touch up here in this this body side graphic here. It's going to put a little more color into this thing, a little more animation. It kind of opens it up a bit. It's got a little bit of that reflection down below and that offset here down below in the kick area. And let's bring that right through. Let's kick it up just a bit and through here. Into that area. There we are. Into that. That's better. A little bolder with that reflection come up in that engine intake area there. And that's where a lot of that is going to collect. And one more time, just one more passing through here. I'll come back and just pick a little bit more graphics in this guy here too, just a touch more, take me back into the actual playing field. One more time here with that little reflection, a little bit more depth, a little bit of a touch up here, into that. And that, up along the cowl. Then lose it. All of a sudden, we're just setting it up here for a lot of dust work to come back in and pick up the pieces here. Let me stop there for a second here, gang. What do you think? Coming together all right? What do you think? So far, so good? All right, I'm going to move along here. Just kind of get a little bit more depth in the glass here to kind of drop it down just a little bit more so we're not so severe in some of the graphics here. If I can find the number 5 gray. Where are we here? There it is. 4. Ah, there she is. Let's go back and just kind of tone this back just a bit more here. Come back in. Warm this up just a little bit, subdue it just a bit more. We'll pick up some of this. One more pass, maybe about number 6, a little bit bolder yet. Kind of drop that glass down just a bit so it's not so burdensome. That's better. Just a little sneak of that interior trim coming through there. Let's get a little bit of that HUD display up on top here. Just going to lay that in place. And we'll put a little more gray in that guy too. Just going to knock it down just a bit. Much more effective. There we go. More trim support. That's getting a little bit, but still a little bolder up inside that cockpit area there. Not bad. Coming along here, just a bit more of that. And that's just a touch, maybe in about a number 7 grade, is kind of get that highlight to read here. There we go. Back in through where that little trim piece is. Gonna knock that back just a bit. Right under the belt line. Much better. Separation where that little tunnel console is. Same with that and that. So just a lot of little fussy pieces going on in there, gang, but so far so good. Let's kind of put a little bit of definition to some of the seat bolster area. A little more believability to it. There she is there. So there we are. Now let's come back in and start to put some pieces together here. Let's kind of slow it all down and really start to look at some of the detail work in this guy. The lamp graphics. Same thing on the other side, catch a little bit of that seam coming off the lens graphic here. More definition than that. Come back in and pick up a little bit of tone here. Get this guy to read a little bit more. And just about this, just a touch, just enough of it, kind of get that to work a little bit here. Let's kind of go back up on top here, maybe just a bit more, a little bit deeper down below here. Gonna knock this thing out. Let's see, where am I here? Number 8. There we are. There we go. And on the other side there, let's get a little bit of that, a bit of sky up on top. And just enough of that light gray to kind of catch reflected light here. And then there we are. There it is right there. Just enough to, there it is. There's the lensing piece. So there we are. I mean, it's got the graphics pretty well set here. I think it's just starting to come together pretty nicely here as far as setting it up for some little bit of pastel work. Oh, let's do this first. This is always fun. Come back in here and do the following here. Yeah, here we are. It's going to be some real graphics. That's when it starts to tell your story. I'm kind of laying some graphics there. It's going to get these guys all put together. I'll come back and hit. There's a lot of detail. Let's say we've got some yellow calipers on this guy. It sounds pretty cool. Come back in here, get this started. That's that. Now I'm just going to lay in some of the hard darks. Let me pull back for a minute here. What do you think, gang? Is this starting to come together all right? Hey, Chip, how you doing, man? Good to have you on board. Sorry for not looking up here for a moment ago. I didn't know if you were here streaming today. Yeah, Thursdays at the normal time here, Chip. So thanks for joining us here. Just doing a little work on some C7 or C8 hyper gray machine. So having a lot of fun with this thing. Just doing thought I'd take a minute, slow down today, and just go through a very simple pattern of here's how you put graphics together. Here's what happens when you put the marker pastel down, and just getting patterns down. There's a lot of paper open yet, but fear not. What's coming is some pastel to fill in the pieces here. So I'm just going through some of the graphics now to get this lined up, little detailed pieces here, some of the fussy parts. So thanks for staying with me here, gang. Hope this is making sense for you. A lot of time spent on just doing some little tiny pieces that make the huge difference. Just gotta get this in place. All of a sudden it all comes together. Pardon the silence, I just want to make sure I'm getting the right spots tuned in here. I block them in first, and we'll come back in and get the really good solid black. I'm going to go over with an anodized look first, then begin to kind of fill in the pieces. So there she is, gang, coming along, looking good, hopefully. So let's just kind of do this, and we'll get a little bit of this hub area here. Now let's go back in and just start to we'll scrub this in first with a nice little more anodized. Don't want to go that dark now. Maybe just about a number 4 gray to start with. There we are. Let's just anodize this guy. Drop it down. And then bring it all together. Bring that in play. Let's get this according to the light source. We'll just kind of bring this into play here as well. Scrub it all together. A little bit of highlight in there. And all of a sudden, boy, as messy as it gets, all of a sudden the wheels just kind of bring it all together. There you are, gang. Looking shiny and new. Let's put a little bit of tone in this thing. Number 7, I'm looking for our number 6. Where am I here? 4, 5, 3, 7. There it is, I think. 6, a 5. Yeah, let's go back to a 5. Let's get a little bit more of this tone through here. Just kind of stain this down just a bit more. A bit more believability into it here. Very selective, just picking up certain spots in the rim itself. And then get rid of some of the graphics. Just kind of tone it back just a bit more. Same thing then back here. Pick up some of this, so much definition back there. You don't see an awful lot of it. Let's go back in and pick a little bit more of this, some of this horizon line in through here. And some of this down below. Let's get this kickback return. Then we're going to be a little bolder with this thing down here too. It just needs to be just highlighted just a bit more. That little return on the shoulder. That's better. Bit of that blade. That as well. A little more shadow underneath here. Let's get this plate to kind of knock out just a bit more too. Just going to drive that back just a bit. Just kind of freelance it in there just a little bit. And let's see, let's go back and get this guy. Let's get this highlight to read just a bit more here. A little more graphics up on top there. And while we're at it, let's put a little bit of boldness in this thing here. A little deeper up on top here with this reflected light might be in the horizon line coming in the canopy. A bit of the inside pillar, and right down the line here. We're not happy with this graphics on this side of the glass, so let's kind of beef this up just a bit more here. A bit more impact in this whole canopy here. There it is. That's better. I can go back a little bit more pastel through here. And there we are. Just a little more animation, kind of drop that right out and kind of pull it through. What do you think there, gang? So far, so good. Boy, it's good to have you on board here, Chip. Nice to see you come together here with us. And where am I here? Let's see. I don't know. It might be a little bit of time here to just go back and just maybe a little bit more impact in the rim area here. Just a touch more to kind of drop this out. Not be afraid to kind of just really knock that thing out of there. A bit of highlight in there, a little more definition. A little bit of highlight temper will take care of getting the rest of that stuff to come into play here for us. Come back to this just a bit more definition, let that kind of go back to, and there you are. There's a pretty good pass at what this guy's starting to look like here. So we'll come back in just a touch here, and a little bit of drawing definition up front, and where these programs are. Let's kind of get this guy to just, I want to come through just a touch here with this, and with this. I don't know if you can see it or not, probably not. Let's do this. Come back up a little bit bolder with this guy. That's better. One more pass here. About a number 7 grade, and I'm going to start adding some pastel. That's where it really begins to get really cool. A lot of fun to just kind of get this guy put together here. Let me turn this upside down for a moment. Get this shadow to work underneath a little bit of a front end crunch. More shadowing through here. And again, underneath here. All right, there we are, gang. So far, so good. What do you think? There she is. Now I'm going to start to set it up here for a very interesting little pass of things I refer to as like a pastel wash here. So let's do this. I'm going to go back here and switch gears and show you how this begins to function. We're going to use a pastel system here where I'm going to come right in and just do some very interesting little things here in terms of getting some tone in here. First thing we're going to do is add a little bit of this, a little bit of gray. Now we get some of the fill in here. You'll see how this begins to function. Mix up a little bit of pastel off page here. Come back in and just get a little bit more impact in it, a little bit more mix of a bit here. Come back in, pastel, and come right across the surface and start really playing these things in now. Now, notice what begins to happen. You start to fill in the breaks, a little more reflective look to it. Break in that rear quarter area, bring that on through. Now, let's go back now. Really, the sculpting part now is fun. Now you come back in and begin to sculpt this guy, adding a very direct pastel and just starting to blend it. Very direct pastel. Start to blend it. And look what begins to happen. A bit of pastel in through here, and then blend it. Take it around the corner, and a little bit more of that dust in through here. Get that to kind of read. Run that through. Let's get a little bit more of this in through here. Back into this reflection back in through here. Then we're going to mess it up here, just to kind of get back into a little bit more definition. And begin to add. Let's do this. Get a little dust down below here. Add some direct. Blend it in. All of a sudden, what begins to happen to that piece? Just comes together. Does that make sense, gang? Question. If you're going to do for a more of a bluish or greenish look, just say with the cool markers, and when you are you going to go for more of a reddish or orangish looking car? I would go with warm. I think I'd go with probably the warm markers, a little bit more romantic. I think, quite frankly, there. Let me get this brush here and just kind of get rid of some of the dust, and we'll come back in and add a little bit of this to it. And just get the eraser out here, and we'll start putting some of the pieces together. I'll address that question in just a moment there, Demetrius. Pardon me. Let's go back and get a little bit of reflected light back into this thing. Eraser, great drawing tool. Into the overhang of the actual wheel envelope itself, kind of lose it into that highlight, bring it around the corner, and we'll just come back and just keep erasing this thing out and get it back to highlight. And let the graphics really do the job for us. Let's come back down here to this area, pick a little highlight on top of the engine nacelle, get rid of that. Come back along through here, come over this, a little bit of highlight across the top of that bone line. There it is there, in through here. And again, down through here, let's get a little bit of that side of that eraser here. Let's get rid of this. Just come down to the side of that eraser and just put a little more highlight off the top of that crown. And again, around the top of this crown here. Let's get that highlight to run through. And let's see what that starts to look like. And it's just a little more dust into this guy to kind of take that bite off of that hard edge. Super. Let's come back along here with a little bit of highlight. Lose it. Highlight. Lose it. A bit of highlight inside that form there. And all of a sudden, look at that, gang. Is that cool or what? Fun stuff. There she is. Now I'll go back to your question. Sorry, but I'll wait for your feedback. What do you think of this thing, guys? Making sense? So that's how you put this thing together in terms of just combinations of cool grays. I mean, it's a very simple palette, but being very sensitive with how to put it all together, I think, is really interesting. And what begins to take place is the marker provides the base. That's the skeleton. Then the pastel comes on board and begins to fill in the gaps and just give you a whole lot of information in terms of how to soften up the shapes and begin to blend them all together. I think the big mistake we make sometimes is we get a lot of materials in our hands, and we want to use all of them, and we kind of use it all, and we kind of destroy the feel of the character of the sketch. Sad situation. Let me go back here. I just want to correct something here. Just a little bit of this highlight to run through here where the spoon is. We'll take it back so it's not so obvious. There it is. That's better. That's much better. A little bit of highlight down below there is really going to help our cause. Okay, Demetrius, back here. Question: if you're going to go for a more of a bluish or greenish looking car, would you stay with the cool marker? Yeah, definitely, at all times. I mean, cool grays to me, quite frankly, Demetrius is the right formula because they're neutral enough, they're cool enough. I mean, add some warm colors to it, like the reds, purples, and blues. They don't violate the contract at all. It just really kind of brings it all together nicely. So, yeah, no question. I think I would go that route every single time. Without a doubt, it's just the right palette to work with. Always been really favored, for example, working with cools because there's so much more forgiving to deal with here. Let me just kind of get the graphics. Sorry about this, guys. Get this graphics lined up here just a bit more. Just clean this up just a touch, and add just a little bit more of this dust into here to kind of soften that off. There we are. Come back in. Now let's pick up that highlight right through here where the wheel envelope is, and then bring this right back in off of this area here too. Just get that highlight to run through and then through. Warm it up, and there she is. Now we're going to follow through with that in just a moment. And notice how that all starts to come together nicely for us. Just keep it nice and subtle. Does the job for us. I don't know how you feel about it, but I just think There's a little bit we can add here. We can do a little bit of this too, and this doesn't hurt your cause at all. A little bit of sky reflection in this thing if you wanted to. That's just enough to kind of cool it off just a touch. And there it is. And then there it is in there. And all of a sudden, man, that thing just glows. Is that cool or what? It's just fun stuff. Let's see. Yeah, no problem, Demetrius. I think it's just really interesting to see how that all comes together. And this is a very, very interesting trained palette in terms of being very soft. And at the same time, a lot of graphics involved in it. There's a lot of intrigue and a lot of pros and cons, obviously. But I think the real strength of it is a highlight there, a little bit of highlight there. The real strength of it is it just does a great job of being a combined media operation without being cluttered or fussy, etc. Pardon me, I've got to do one thing here. Let's get this vacuum to work really here. Let's get this thing to really sing inside there. There it is. A little deeper in the shadows. Direct pastel, great stuff to work with. There we are. A bit of a drop in through here. Nice. A little bit of a drop in through here to kind of get that graphics kind of run through nicely deep. There it is. Up on top, just a bit more in here. Notice I'm just doing a lot of dry application. Get that thing to really sing and just kind of crank at it here. Let's do this just a bit too. Get this underneath here. In the shadow area where the real impact is. There it is. Much better. So hands are pretty grubby here, so pardon me as I kind of clean them off a little bit. So let's go back and do a little bit of this and try to wrap this thing up. The purpose of today's stream was to basically get a really good pastel marker set up on working with this material and how to deal with it. Now I'll notice I've got the rest of the composition. For next Tuesday, I'll kind of put in the background, so throw the graphics in and the logo, etc., and we'll show you what the finished product looks like next week. So prior to doing that, let me just get this out of the way for a second here, gang, and we'll just do the following. I'm just going to clean this up just a bit. Come back in. I'm going to get a cover sheet. No, I won't need one, I don't think. Let's come back in and get some really good hot spots in through here. Let's come back and pick this up. Pick this up. A little bit of highlight inside the glass. Just start drawing some detail in this thing now. Again, where we had this thing down below, just get that in place. Drawing back in. And tone it back just a bit. A little more definition up front there. Sketch this highlight coming off of that piece on the insert area there. Let's get that all set up. A little bit of highlight on that. A little bit of highlight down this leading edge. And again on this piece, this little cantilever inside the grill area. Show you where that's coming from. We'll go back just knock that back just a bit more so it's not so bold. But it's there. It's got a little bit of highlight across this piece here. Drawing back in and just pushing out some of the details. Probably the most critical part of the whole process as far as I'm concerned, where we really take the time to slow it all down. Pardon me for turning upside down. Getting this all put together. The return there, a little return in through here. Little things make a huge difference. A little bit of highlight on the rear view mirrors, around some of the daylight opening here. Pardon me as I sharpen the stick a bit. I have a red pen here, pardon me. A little bit of emblem up front there. And just a touch more of a little bit of reflected light up in this guy here. Number 7 gray, if I can pick one up here. Oops, 6, 8, and 7. There we are. A little more transparency in the glass. And just a little more troubling in terms of the little graphic up front there. I'm not really happy with that. Let's kind of tune that back just a bit. Meaning this guy right up front here. That's better. Just shoulder that off just a bit more. And put a little bit of graphics in this guy. Brush, and just a touch more behind it here, and I think we've got it. Just a bit more to kind of take the bite off of that. And I think that's just going to do it right about that, guys. What do you think? There she is. Whoops, pardon me. Let's get it on full screen here. And we'll let you be the judge. What do you think, gang? Come together all right? It just keeps getting better and bad. You just keep tuning it in, I think, Chip. That's the difference here. Let's get a bit of highlight down this thing here. Clear that out just a bit more. Clean this up just a bit more. Get that highlight to read in there. There it is. That's better. There you go. A bit of that tailor in there, and just get a little bit of that highlight back up on top here. And we'll reflect a little bit of that into place. So it's just a little bit of glass up on top there. A little bit of highlight up on top here. And if I can find my brush, there it is, guys. So there's the battle for today. I think that'd be kind of nice to stop right there, let you guys be the judge of that thing. Notice there's a little bit of composition work here that I've got to finish yet, and I don't want to bore you to death here with the rest of this material, but notice a lot of reflected light up in front here. I'll just add this here, highlight there, wait here, tune this. Yeah. I guess that's a good point, Chip. I guess I'll keep my big mouth shut and just keep working here. But I mean, I think the thing that's interesting about this, there's so many different avenues of approach, and I think the pastel marker approach has always, to me, been a really interesting process, because what it does is it gives you a combination of soft, harsh, and harsh and very palatable and pliable first marker. The pastel is very pliable, marker very soft, but the marker provides the base. That's where the skeleton is. Work of art never done. Yeah, you're right there, Chef. You just saw that. Work of art's never done. Well, in this case, it is. I'm not going to get into a situation where you start to fuss the daylights out of this thing. I'll go back in, for example, for next Tuesday, I'll show you the finished product. I'll start adding a little bit of background into this thing, finish up the logo, the Corvette logo. Let me drop this down just a bit. But I think it really kind of sells it itself. I mean, we're looking at a very hypersonic gray material here, natural saddle trim. I just thought we'd take a minute here. We've done a lot of interactive things, for example, sketch on top of sketch on top of sketch over the past few streams. But I thought it'd be kind of nice to slow it all down. Had the line drawing started, and I thought let's take it from start to finish and show you how this whole process comes together. And I hope it's been of some help to you, as much as it's been a lot of fun for me. This just always is an enormous amount of fun. And I can't thank you enough for joining forces today. Any closing commentary at all from you all? Let me kind of clean up my mess here. And we're just going to get this ready to prep for. We'll show you the finished product coming up on Tuesday. I'll just a little bit of background in and get the logo finished, and we'll ship it off. And if you want to buy one, great. Let me know. I'll get it all set up here. We'll go through some systems and get the beauty done. One last thing. Sorry, Chip, you're right. I see something I just cannot stand to let it go. Let's bring that highlight right through here. That little bit of that highlight right there saves the day. Right into that process there. Cool. Alrighty, there we are. Anybody, any commentary at all, please let me know. Ciao, Doc. Hey, you got to go. Hey, thanks for joining forces, Chip. Always good to have you on board today, so thank you so much. You should be a designer. You're good at Well, I'm trying, Chip. Let's put it that way. I'll try to come back and get out of here. Anybody, any closing commentary? What about you, Demetrius? Helpful? And Carlin, are you still there? Hey, very cool. Chip 7. That's great. That's great. I'm glad it has helped. That's the big plus there. Very cool, guys. Again, putting together the graphics is the most important part of the whole process, in my opinion. It just takes an awful lot of time. You slow it all down just a bit and get it all taken care of. And again, very much type. No problem, Demetrius. I'm just glad you've taken the time to join us here today. And Phil, if you're next door, are you still with us? What do you think, Phil? It's not as good as your dad's, but we put an effort to it here, and get your feedback on this beauty and see what we come up with here. Again, gang, thank you so much for the time spent. It's a lot of fun here. This has been a real good process for me in terms of slowing it all down just a bit and showing you how the whole process begins to come together with pastel marker and a good line drawing. And I've always said this in my streams as well, and I believe this with all my heart. Media is great, pastel marker, watercolor, whatever you're working with. That's always a great medium to have, but the most important key to it all is to have a great drawing. Once a drawing is set in place and the patterns are set, everything else just becomes so academic. It's so much more romantic to work with and very, very easy to deal with, and takes a lot of the strain and the stress off of the operation we're dealing with here to get it all done. So again, thank you so much for your time, and really appreciate the effort here put forth you guys tuning in here. Hope it's been of some help, as much as it's been of help to me. Good to go through the process here and just kind of keep moving at it. So I wish you all the very best. And again, if you have a moment and want to check my website out, please go to drcontrast.com. You see some very interesting drawing lessons. Are total of 9, very reasonably priced, and hopefully it'll help you along the way. Also, please drop me a note at jim@drcontrast.com just to give some feedback on what you might want to pick up in future streams or whatever. I'd be happy to comply if we can kind of get you to some assistance. Marvelous to do so. And again, cannot thank you again for the time spent here today, gang. Fun to have you on board. Really much appreciated. And I always end with this signature because I think it's really the most important part of the whole day as far as the streaming process is concerned, and it's this. Never forget to remember to dare to be great, because you are. Have a great week. We'll see you on Tuesday, and we'll pick it up again, and we'll show you the finished product in this guy. And then maybe on Tuesday, finish this up, show you the final product, and do some advanced Corvette, maybe toned paper stuff, really rapid sketch work. So once again, thank you so much, gang. Have a great weekend. Take care, and we'll see you next Tuesday at 2 o'clock. Thank you. Bye-bye now.